Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 9 years, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. Well, many years ago, we created a clip called Great Quotes in Franchising. And Great Quotes in Franchising was kind of like a best-of segment, and we had no idea that this podcast would become just as big as our weekly radio show. So today you're going to get to hear our most recent clip that we just launched this week with Larry Sidoti. He's the Chief Development Officer of Paris Baguette. And Larry says, before you buy a franchise, you really got to love me. And we're also going to play 2 other clips from our Great Quotes in Franchising podcast. So stick around because we have a great show.
The Stone Coat Franchise Opportunity. Are you looking for a unique and lucrative franchise opportunity? If so, take a look at Stone Coat. With a patented process which creates a true stone finish on almost any wall or ceiling, Stone Coat is a true game-changing product in the multi-billion-dollar construction industry. Stone Coat is applied faster, cleaner, and cheaper than conventional quarried stone, which saves both time and money. With advantages in remodel and new construction of both residential and commercial projects, Stone Coat is a true crossover product. The Stone Coat franchise opportunity provides a low startup cost, low operating expenses, comprehensive training, ongoing support, and no royalty payments. For more information on the Stone Coat franchise opportunity, go to www.stonecoatfranchise.com. That's www.stonecoatfranchise.com, or call us at 972-380-2700. That's 972-380-2700.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Today's great quote in franchising is being brought to you by
The Stone Coat Franchise Opportunity. Are you looking for a unique and lucrative franchise opportunity? If so, take a look at Stone Coat. With a patented process which creates a true stone finish on almost any wall or ceiling, Stone Coat is a true game-changing product in the multi-billion-dollar construction industry. Stone Coat is applied faster, cleaner, and cheaper than conventional quarried stone, which saves both time and money. With advantages in remodel and new construction of both residential and commercial projects, Stone Coat is a true crossover product. The Stone Coat franchise opportunity provides a low startup cost, low operating expenses, comprehensive training, ongoing support, and no royalty payments. For more information on the Stone Coat franchise opportunity, go to www.stonecoatfranchise.com. That's www.stonecoatfranchise.com, or call us at 972-380-2700. That's 972-380-2700.
Hi everyone, this is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, we've been hosting Franchise Interviews many years now, and the way this whole podcast came about was we were looking to do, over the years we've had some great quotes on our show. So we decided to do these like little mini clips of kind of like a best of segment, because there was some really great significant information within each show. And we didn't realize that this particular podcast was going to turn into something just as big as the radio show. So today you're going to get to hear an interesting clip from Larry Sidoti, and he is the Chief Development Officer of a franchise called Baguette. And he says something really interesting. We're going to call this podcast You Really Gotta Love Me, but you got to listen to it to find out why.
Get into franchising, but we find from doing the show such a long time now that many aspiring entrepreneurs, they don't know where to begin. What advice would you give to them in their quest to buy a franchise, because you've been doing this such a long time now?
I would say you look at something that you can get passionate about and are very excited about. You need to be clear on what your objectives are and your goals.
Right.
You need to look beyond the superficial stuff. Like, again, I know money is extremely important, but you got to look past just the money part of it. You got to look at something that you can get heavily invested in emotionally and also financially, and that you believe in. And when I say that, the most important part of a franchise relationship is alignment. You have to make sure that you're aligned with that company that you would be getting involved with, and they're aligned with you. And which means you have to believe in what they believe in. You have to have similar values, and you have to make sure that you are in tune with the leadership of that company, that you know them intimately and understand what's driving them and what you basically got to put yourself in the organization, and try to come out with a decision that you feel totally comfortable with and aligned with, and just make sure that all the pieces are in place and you do your due diligence. Don't get trapped into something that you think is a hot concept or something that looks great today, because there's a lot of here today is gone tomorrow, and I live in the county with that right now.
I can't tell you how many times I get the question, because, doing the show such a long time, Larry, is, from an aspiring entrepreneur, it's like, what's hot right now in franchising? And you're right. I typically have the same responses. You might want to be a little careful about, what's hot today, because you're right. It's a lot of times it's gone in 5 years, isn't it?
Yeah, and you also you've got to be aware of how easy it is to get involved in it, because if it's easy, people are going to spring up into it, and it's going to get. There are, the pizza space right now is going through that. There's going to be a consolidation. because in every region there's no clear dominant player yet.
Right.
But you have all these players, and they can't all survive. And
no, they can't.
Sooner or later, you can get caught up in something like that, saying it's really, really hot. It's a great concept, but when guys start putting 2 or 3 of them within 2 blocks of each other, and you start splitting the market, and everything becomes commoditized, that's a low barrier of entry category that can deceive you into a bad decision. I'm not saying it's a bad decision. I'm just saying it's an example of getting into something that is not really a high barrier of entry category, so you have to be very careful and make a very careful decision.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And I like how you used on several instances in this interview, Larry, is you emphasize the word relationship. And a lot of times when someone will ask me, to describe a franchise, is that's what I describe it as. It's a relationship, isn't it? And you kind of put an emphasis also on that, having that trust in the franchisor is a key element of franchising, isn't it?
At the end of the day, if you're married, this is your second spouse.
Yeah,
and
well
if
said.
you're not married, this is your first spouse. And anyone that's ever been married knows you better be completely aligned with who you're marrying, or else things don't go right. And that's very painful when it spins out and goes the wrong way. So, when I speak with franchisees, and I'm, one of the things that I often say is, look, we're going to be married. This is a contract, but it's a marriage.
Right.
And you really got to love me, because if you don't,
I like that.
It's not going to end well. And you just need to look at it as, hey, we're dating, and we're going to get engaged, and then we're going to get married, and we're not always going to agree, but at least we know that we can disagree and walk away and come back and agree on other things. It's got to be that kind of a relationship.
That's great. We have this free quotes in franchising podcast. We're going to put that in there, Larry. I think that is great advice to our listeners.
If you'd like to listen to that whole show with Larry Sidoti of Paris Baguette, all you have to do is go to franchiseinterviews.com, go to our franchise interviews by category page, and then go to the food section, and you can actually hear that whole interview. It was a fantastic show, a podcast we did with Larry. And finally, we just want to thank everyone for making this podcast such a big hit. It's hard to imagine we've been doing this podcast, radio show, almost a decade now, so it's really quite incredible how quickly the time has gone by. So we want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll see you again soon with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising from Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.
Are you looking for a franchise that delivers? Businesses will always need shipping, and for more than 25 years, loyal customers have depended on Unishippers for reliable savings and exceptional customer service. Unishippers is focused on just one thing: helping small and medium-sized businesses save time and money on all their shipping needs. And as the largest reseller of complete shipping services in the country, we have the buying power to ensure that we succeed. The Unishippers franchise offers low startup costs, no equipment or real estate required because they're not retail, residual income, and a quality of life and work-life balance. For more information on becoming a Unishippers franchisee, go to www.unishippers.com and click Franchise Opportunities, or call Franchise Development at 801-708-5822. That's 801-708-5822.
Coming up on segment 2, you're going to hear what every franchipreneur needs to know before buying a franchise. We're going to play a clip from our popular Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 8 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising. Where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, Franchise Interviews has been hosting this show now over 8 years, and we've done over 400 shows. And, you know, a lot of people don't know this, but we actually started off as a newsletter in 2006. We had a handful of subscribers, and the newsletter started to build over time. And we got a proposal to turn the newsletter into a radio show. And I originally said no to the idea. I was terrified about doing a radio show. And I thought about it for about 3 days, and I said, you know what? I'm going to take a chance. And doing the radio show has really been, I would say, one of the top 5 or top 10 things that's happened, you know, over my life. So it's been a real amazing opportunity. We've interviewed some amazing people, from Michael Gerber to the guest you're going to hear today, Melanie Bergeron. Melanie is in our Great Quotes in Franchising podcast for today, and she is the chair of Two Men in a Truck, and she was on our 6-year anniversary show. We put a lot of thought as far as who we'd like to have on the anniversary show, and she was a perfect choice, a wonderful interview. And one of the questions we asked Melanie on the show was, what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise? And of course, her response was brilliant. So here we go with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising with Melanie Bergeron, the chair of Two Men in a Truck.
To go or grow, they add a
Right.
truck, add a truck, add a truck. And then if, depending on what the economy's doing, then you could take a truck out if you had to. Whereas with other franchise systems, you usually have to add a store, add a location.
That's true.
So it's just another beautiful thing. I'm using every second of your time I can to encourage people to think about this business as an opportunity.
It's an amazing opportunity, and I guess I could officially call you an expert. I know that I believe you are a certified franchise expert, and one of the questions we've been asking on the show, Melanie, for the last 6 years is, what advice would you give to our listeners? We call them aspiring franchipreneurs. So many of them know they want to get into a franchise opportunity, but it seems it seems a little more difficult today because there's just so much out there. And I think a lot of our listeners, they just simply don't know where to begin. I think they get a little overwhelmed. What would you say to them as an expert in franchising?
I would look at the concept and think about who the audience is that you'll be working with.
Right.
Because no matter what product or service it is, it's not really the product or service, it's who you're delivering to. And, is this an audience that you could be comfortable with? I guess that would be the first thing I would look at. Second, are there unit economics? Third, is this a fad? Is it going to be around 10 years from now? Fourth, how expensive is it to get involved? Are you going to be able to get a loan for it? 5, is it going to be difficult to learn this product or service, or will it be pretty easy to learn and teachable to others? Also look for state regulations. Is there a location available in your city or state? Are there special regulations toward that product or service? Because a lot of products and services are regulated, and I'll tell you moving is. But the biggest thing your listeners can do is call as many, once they receive the permission, call as many of the franchisees in that system that they can. And a couple red flags, if you get the FDD from a company and there is not an item number 19, and that shows average numbers that franchisees make, that's a red flag, and find out why they don't have that in their FDD. Secondly, when the prospect does receive permission to call franchisees and they give you a very short list, that's a red flag. And it'd be nice to my truck. We give all of our franchisees, even people that have left the system, because we want that prospect to call as many people as possible. And if they say, I would never do this, I made a big mistake, then the prospect should ask, well, you sound disappointed, would you do it all over again? And if they say never, then it might be good for the prospect to say, then would you be willing to sell your location? The truth will bubble up in that answer. And then keep in mind, if we, it's not often this happens, but if we had a prospect called 2 Men in a Truck, and they said, we talked to this franchisee and they don't like the way you do things, then we would probably say, you know what, you won't be happy in our system then, because that is how we do things. So I think for a prospect, they're going to get a bulk of their education by checking references. Very, 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 very important.
Wow, that's a great question. I never heard that before, in all the years I've been studying franchising is, if someone said, they never would have got into it again, then you say, well, would you sell me yours? And they said no. That would be like, well, okay, I never thought of that. I mean, that's very clever. I had a feeling your response would be, nothing less than spectacular. It's
So thank you, everyone, for listening. If you'd like to hear that whole interview with Melanie Bergeron, the chair of 2 Men in a Truck, you can actually go to franchiseinterviews.com. You can go to our franchises listed alphabetically page and just go to 2 Men in a Truck. You can go to our franchises by category page and go to our home services page. And we'd like to thank everyone again for making this podcast and this show such a big success. It's amazing that we've been doing it now 8 years, and we hope to do it another 8 years. So thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you soon with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising from Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.
Need a business loan? Talk to Diamond Financial Services, the experts in franchise financing nationwide. Whether you're looking to start a franchise, acquire an existing franchise, or expand your territory through opening new locations, Diamond Financial stands by your side start to finish. From pre-qualification to packaging and presenting your application to securing a financial commitment and through the loan closing process, Diamond Financial is there. While you're waiting, thousands of others are making their financial dreams come true. Don't wait any longer. Pre-qualify now by completing a confidential, no-obligation financial analysis. Let's face it, traditional banks just aren't in the business of financing small business. At Diamond Financial, we specialize in securing franchise loans from $100,000 to $3 million and equipment leasing up to $150,000. Let us help you get started. Go to www.franchisefunding.net or call 877-508-2274. That's franchisefunding.net, 877-508-2274.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. Today you're going to get to hear from a legend in franchising. It was about months ago, Don and I were celebrating our anniversary of doing the radio show, and we put a lot of thought as far as who we'd like to have for a guest that particular day. And Don and I both agreed that that person should be George Naddaff, and Mr. Naddaff graciously accepted. For those of you who don't know George Naddaff, he's tagged as the guru in franchising. He's also the founder of Boston Chicken. He had a lot of great quotes that show. This is just one of them where George gives his advice to aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise. Here we go.
Characteristics that make a successful no-fat franchisee? Well, I've always told people to play to their strengths. If you have a personality is not a charming one, don't get into the service business where you have to interact with people, because people business requires personality. So, you're not asking someone to do something that's against their grain. So when looking for a franchise, a person should consider the things that they've succeeded in. For instance, if they've been a coach of a soccer team and they had to inspire the kids to run down that field and kick that ball and win, there's something about that individual that is inspiring. So he should look for something that maybe can be along those same lines, that he can use those talents of his. If he's been a teacher, he's been a person that's worked with his hands. In other words, always play to your strength. Don't go into something that's opposite of your personality. That will cause a little bit of a problem. Of course, most companies offer training, but you know, if you put a glove on, it should fit neatly in between the fingers. It shouldn't be something that once you put the glove on, you can't bend your fingers. It's as simple as that. So when you're buying a franchise, it should fit.
And I guess no fat specifically. You have a checklist you go down that you want each franchisee to be, or sometimes it's just having a feeling of a certain person?
It's clearly a financial issue. They have to have, in our case, pretty close to the ability to finance something between $500,000 and $600,000. So if an individual can't do that, then maybe he should look for other franchises like a Subway or a Quiznos or other that are around the $200,000. So again, here we talk about fitting something that fits their pocketbook and not get into something that's way over their head and put themselves in financial jeopardy by starting in something that is too hard for them to overcome. So again, it should fit their wallet just like it should fit their personality.
Right, absolutely.
And you've, of course, been involved with so many franchisees with all your different businesses that you've done. Have there been times over the years that you sort of took a chance on someone that you weren't really sure, but you really liked them, and it's worked out? I'm sure you have a couple success stories.
Yeah, there have been those cases, and again, they've been the opposite. And again, you learn by doing the thing. I would much prefer to tell a person that he's not qualified than qualified. And the rationale behind that, of course, is that I don't want to get somebody into something that he's not qualified for. There are so many franchise selections out there that if a person's doing their research, it allows them the opportunity to really, really take the time and investigate. And most of these companies already have franchises in place. They can pick up the phone and call up the franchisee and say, how you doing? What kind of work did you do before you bought this franchise? Tell me about why you chose it. Would you do it again? I mean, this is a great opportunity as opposed to starting something on your own where you don't know whether you'll ever get the first base. You know, franchising in the beginning is very much like a baseball game. If you can buy third base as opposed to getting to first base, and getting to first base by starting your own business, maybe you'll get the first base, but there's no guarantee. But if you can buy a franchise, you at least can get the third base. That's good baseball. And, you know, when you get the third base, your chances of getting home is a lot easier than being on first.
Wow, that's a great analogy, isn't it, Don?
Yeah, and it sounds like you're a Red Sox fan.
Thank you very much.
I love that quote from Mr. Naddaff where he says that, you know, franchising is like a baseball game and it gives you the ability to start on third base. So, again, this is our second podcast, and, again, we'd love to hear your feedback, and we'll see you again soon for another great edition of Franchise Interviews and Great Quotes in Franchising. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.